vision from you or from people in your
This came
parish or
out
congregation?
this came out of people at my parish over a stewardship dinner 2 years ago.
Okay.
We're already active with the homeless community. We support a food pantry with the other Lutheran churches. We run the third largest food pantry in Santa Barbara County,
Wow.
food distribution center in Santa Barbara
great.
County. We're a safe parking site for the homeless. We have 5 vehicles, and we strongly support the New Beginnings
that's
Counseling
terrific.
Center with safe parking. We're a winter shelter site.
Got it.
So very, very.
So you're already
very,
a
very
magnet
active.
in
Yes.
many ways, because that's sometimes one of the greatest challenges
Right.
when you want to start something, you know, with a population that doesn't normally come to your property, is you create some type of magnet program or ministry. Many people will, it could be something like a thrift store. Some people may have a thrift store that's connected to their organization. Other people will have a clothes closet, you know, where you can come in and you can get, you know, clothes. Some will do a food pantry. This particular location in Tahunga has an extremely large food pantry, so they're providing food. We have what's called the Valley Food Bank, and and as a Valley Food Bank, they actually supply food for many food pantries around the valley, church partners. They receive donations, and then so we're able to kind of use that food as well with the feeding that we do. So that's terrific that you already have some opportunities for that.
Yeah.
And so
So that's where the whole thing started.
Right.
Took a while, but we have the money to actually go out and buy the shower tray and possibly even a truck.
Okay.
So looking at it. It took a while, but the capital was not the problem. What we need to look at is, the questions that come up is, okay, you got that. What about the day-to-day operation? How does this whole thing work, the
How does it
detailed
run?
plans? I come out of industry, both research and program management, and running a business area. So I'm very much interested in what are the detailed plans? What are the lessons learned? How do we not stumble over ourselves so that we're really effective ministry? How do we get more people involved? There's a problem, of course, with the not in my backyard. How do we change that around? A new acronym that I just heard a couple of weeks ago is not NIMBY, but SIMBY, compassion in my backyard.
I like that.
To go to the Greek, instead of the paranoia, the pronoia. Instead of the fear of the other, how do we bring them together?
That's great. That's terrific.
So the video that gets edited out of here and what we've learned, and
Yeah.
will then be going to other churches and other funding sources. So
So it's
here's
creating
the
awareness
capital,
and then seeking traction.
seeking attraction, seeking the support.
That's great.
We've been in contact with County Public Health, both the person who has the portfolio for the homeless work, as well as with the assistant director, and gotten a green light. They're very supportive of that.
That is great. Those partnerships
Talking to
are extremely important.
and other suggestions, like getting with Doctors Without Walls. How could this support the doctors when they're coming out, doing a visit? Oh, wait a minute, wouldn't it be better if the person could get a shower before they see the doctor? Women's health. Some of the women's health procedures that doctors would be doing a little
They're
bit more
doing it
invasive.
transition house,
Yeah.
women's health, so that would work out.
Yeah.
That would work out very well.
We just have to be able to go to Santa Barbara.
Well,
The Lutheran Church funds came from an Isla Vista sale,
Okay.
and they wanted it kept pretty much to Isla Vista.
legally, it has to be kept in the Isla Vista, greater Isla Vista
Legally.
area.
Got it. The shower truck itself cannot leave the city limits, but the ministry.
Yeah, using this source of funds
Yeah.
and getting started.
Well, yeah.
Santa
But
Barbara
once you
should
get
do their
started,
own.
Once you get started, we hope that they'll get one further on, you know, in the city, and we'll have them all over.
Because we can't really handle everybody.
Or you were going to say,
that you begin to build, you begin to change the culture.
Yes.
You begin to say, oh, wait a minute, gosh, maybe we should be doing something here too.
That's good. I think what might be helpful is if I just kind of run down our SOS program, just kind of give you a snapshot of what we do, kind of on a day-to-day basis, give you a little bit of a description of the types of churches that we are partnering with, what their involvement and investment is versus what our involvement and investment is, and then also the plan that we have for that ministry to really become something that they take and run with.
Yeah.
Because we've been working through that and thinking through that, what a good partnership looks like, what a partnership maybe with challenges looks like, and that can also help as you're beginning to launch, you know, something significant and hopefully create a movement within your area.
Some of the places that we take the shower trailer could be churches. Some of them may be the local community center,
Yes.
the local beach. We know that people know that the homeless are there using the
Absolutely.
sand wash-off showers on the beach. They're going into the restaurants and using the restrooms until
That's
they
a
get kicked
terrific
out.
idea.
So let's go to the shopping center with this.
Yes.
Get support from the local merchants. Build this, and let's change this. Let's change the outlook,
Yeah.
change the view.
Yeah.
A new pair of glasses.
That's great.
As Dr. Bill said.
Yes, absolutely. Well, this is what we have. So we have our SOS, which stands for Street Outreach Services. Our SOS program is really a program where we go out to the chronically homeless. We have an emergency shelter, which we're a part of, which is basically ministering to situational homeless families. And so we're very unique, you know, our niche is families when it comes to what's happening in our emergency shelters. So single fathers, single mothers, family units. The key criteria is they have to have a child under the age of 18, but they don't have a home. Many are living in their cars. We had someone just 2 months ago with a 15-month-old baby. They were sleeping on a sidewalk the night before they came to us. So we have situations like that we are dealing with internally. So we offer them a lot of services, case management, counseling, classes, anger management, parenting, coping skills. A lot of those things are happening kind of where we are, where we're located in North Hollywood. But that's only one aspect of what we do. A major aspect of what we do is SOS. And SOS is our ministry to the chronically homeless, or the underserved, the underprivileged, the under-resourced, but many of them are chronically homeless. We have a location on Monday in Chatsworth. It's actually a church, because with us being a nonprofit, our whole thing is that we're not here to do the work of the church. We're not here to replace the church. We shouldn't ever be anyone's church. We have a deep love for the local church, and we want to assist local churches that have a vision for doing ministry to the least of these. And that's what we do, is we support those. We help them get off the ground, and then we move somewhere else. Our name doesn't even need to be a part of it. It's more of that church kind of owning that program and creating awareness in their congregation, and then creating awareness in their community, and hopefully ministering to the needs of those that are in their neighborhood and their oikos. So that is a significant part of why we kind of have partnered with churches, because we go to a church much like the vision that you all have. We then go to a church, and we're hoping that the church then goes to the other community, you know, organizations, the businesses around them. And it really becomes a viral movement where that parish, in essence, is kind of ministering to the needs of their community. And then, like spokes in the wheel, we can't do it all, and we know that we can't. So our plan, because we actually have had some SOS locations that we've had to transition. You know, like with anything, a life cycle needs to come to an end. And if you keep certain things on life support, it's sometimes better to give birth and to kind of bring something to a close. And a lot of that is because they have become unhealthy. So I'll kind of start with that, and then I'll cast a vision for where our SOS is and where we want it to go. An unhealthy partnership would be a church that tolerates us being there. They really don't want us there, but they're okay with us using their building for an hour or two. That's not what we're here to do. We're not begging for locations to go. We don't want to ever be a burden on a local church. We want this to be the passion and the vision of their leadership, passion and vision of the community, whether they have 5 people that are remotely interested or 50, because we have both extremes with our churches. We want this to really be something that they are owning, and they then are implementing, so that they are then receiving the blessings, and so that they are the ones the other 6.5 days of the week, that those guests, those clients, those individuals that you're ministering to, they have a place to go. We're mobile. We're like the circus coming to town. We hop on a train and we get off at the next stop. They can't come find us 4 days later because we're at a different location. The circus train has left the station. So we really need to make sure that wherever we go, the church sees that it's not just a pet ministry for an hour a week that they're tolerating and they need a custodian to clean up after. That's not what this is. It really can become a significant part of the externally focused vision for a local church, the compassionate ministry vision for a local church. And so,
Can I
yes,
just ask a quick
absolutely.
question?
So far, when we've been trying to find places, it sounds like they're gonna tolerate it.
Yeah.
Okay, now, you wouldn't advise us to start a ministry, would you, under those circumstances, unless there was at least one church who was really into it?
It's a great
guess that's a
question. Absolutely perfect question. A lot of times is people have a fear of the unknown. They have a fear of something that they've never done before, that maybe they've never seen before. That's why what you guys are doing, seeing it, that's why capturing it on video, you really doesn't do it justice. You almost have to see it. That gets rid of that initial fear. That's very natural. It's not sinful. It's very natural. It's very normal. There's almost, unfortunately, we have a safety mechanism within us. It's our own protection, and it's built out of fear. Control is built out of fear. So if we can't control it because it's too messy and it's too dirty, we don't do it. Or we wait for someone else to do it. And then once they do it and we can kind of watch it, we can kind of visit, we can kind of peek in and see, oh, it's okay. Actually, it's not just okay, it's amazing. Then they want to do it. So my recommendation is to find places, locations that want to do it, that they're excited about it. Because you don't want to start 10 things that are an inch deep. You want to have one or two, to use from quality. In essence, from a manufacturing standpoint, you need a prototype. You need a healthy prototype that becomes your model, your test kitchen, so to speak. And if that already is sick, because you're dealing with a lot of, if people are begrudgingly walking into it, they're resistant in any way, you're not going to feel free to let the Spirit move on what that needs to look like. So you need some initial enthusiasm, you need some support, you must have buy-in with your first location, okay?
Another
Yes.
quick question.
Yeah.
I thought you were getting to that people are always afraid of the unknown.
It's true.
Well, how about taking one church, even if that's all we have, that is a little tolerant, and letting them see the known, and then they'll fall in love, hopefully.
Absolutely. That also happens.
That can happen?
They can happen. It's very similar to having a missionary come in on furlough, and they're communicating about the mission field. I've never been to Papua New Guinea. I've never been to Liberia, and you hear them tell testimonies of things that are happening over there. Creates an awareness. Now all of a sudden you've got 10 teenagers that want to go on the missions trip. You've got 30 adults that want to pay for the people that they can't. So you see how that happens. It happens with stories. Some people need to hear the stories. Some people need to see the stories. And I feel like visual metaphors are sometimes much better than convincing them that this is the way of doing it. They almost need to see the product of it. So you're exactly right. It may be 3 people in your church and that's it. It can still happen. With 3 people, you begin doing it, the Lord will bless it. Others will begin seeing, wow, that's incredible. This is an opportunity for me to serve. So it creates an opportunity for your local church to plug people into ministry that they're not currently involved in. Only so many people can facilitate the attraction that is the worship gathering on a Sunday. Not everyone that's their gift set. So you almost want to create other opportunities for those that are maybe even baby Christians or are new in their faith, to have an opportunity to serve, because I think that's a common denominator with all of creation. I feel like with the human condition, we have something inside of us that wants to give up ourselves, sacrifice ourselves, and help someone else out, regardless of their place in their spiritual walk. So this is an opportunity for them to be discipled through service.
Right. And any ministry needs different spiritual gifts.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you need the person who's the administrator. Sometimes you need the person who can't balance their checkbook, writing 3 checks a month, but boy, a great cook.
It's
with
amazing.
gift of hospitality. So all these different things have to come together.
They have to. And here's another opportunity where the cooks don't have to wait for the next potluck. The cooks don't have to wait for the next social. There's actually a ministry every single week where someone who likes to be in the kitchen, great. Others it just may be the gift of service and helps. And so theirs is more of a supportive role. But you need enough different people to kind of set this up that you can never have too many volunteers. You really can't, because if they're not running it. Now, that being said, you can have too few, okay? But having too few causes burnout, and you don't want to ever burn anyone else out. So one of my initial recommendations is to start slow enough and to build into it, because you're not just building into it from an experience standpoint, but also from a resource standpoint, but from a personnel standpoint. You have to have the functional structures in place to handle growth, because if it becomes exponential, you've got to be ready for it. I've seen these things explode, go from 0 to 70 and then crumble. Now here's a prime example, we have a new SOS in Chatsworth. It's doing very, very well. It's only 3 weeks old. Many of ours kind of start with a handful of people, 4 or 5, they ease their way into it. This one, the very second week, had 50 people, and the ratio was 25 guests and 25 volunteers. That ratio
For a
makes us,
shower, for the shower truck?
this is just overall for the entire day. Started with the shower early, and then it moved into a meal and a message. And you can do this in so many different ways. A shower truck is a key piece because most people don't have shower trucks. I don't know of any other organization that actually takes mobile showers to places. We do it. We also have someone that's willing to actually drive that shower truck to the train station and to local locations, like you said. It doesn't have to be church parking lots. Because you may have churches or church plants that don't actually have the property to host something like this, but they have the heart. And so their people might want to go into the community and do it there. It's being salt and light wherever they are. But our Friday location, the church was excited. And so we came in and we said, here's our deal. We're going to set you up on a 90-day to 120-day plan, where we end up giving you the keys at the end of 120 days to the ministry, and you run with it. We'll still have our shower go. We'll have one of our shower drivers come and do a shower, but everything else you will end up running, and they're excited about that. They're not ready now. It brings trepidation and fear for them to have to do it alone yet, because they're not ready yet. So it's the scaffolding. We're the scaffolding, and then eventually when the building is strong, we pull the scaffolding back and it can stand on its own. It's not about us, it's not about our name.
You do the coaching, the mentoring, the
We do the
development.
coaching and the mentoring, and they ask the questions, and it's very real time. You know, here's a question I may have about the shower, then we walk them through that. Here's a question we may have about the meal. Do you have to have a big meal? Because we bring a meal, but we also have staff that cooks the meal, and it's a warm meal, it's very good. Not every church or every location is gonna have a meal. Some, for us, that's a magnet, okay? So a
Food
church that doesn't
draws.
have a magnet, we needed one, it's that. But not every church that we partner with, actually not very many of them. This might be the only one actually has a food pantry. So if you have a food pantry, if you have, a place for people to come in and get clothes, a clothes closet, something like that, that's your magnet. And the meal can be very, very minimal. It doesn't have to burden you. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. So where I'm getting with this is that this model does not have to be expensive. If the shower is something that you want, what we'll do is we won't even get into all of the fine details of the shower stuff. I'll send you the budget, okay? And we'll go over that later. But other than that, you can do SOS very, very simply, or you can make it as complicated as possible to where it can't be replicated again. I feel like the early church was simple enough. I mean, some writers, I think Alan Hurst called it has to be sneezable. It has to be the point where it actually the virus can easily transmit, and you actually can replicate it. And if we've complicated things too much with this, no one else can do it, or they'll come and visit and they'll think, I can't do that. So you happen to be stepping into one that it's not about numbers, but it's about different things that we do. You can simplify the things that you see today to make it fit your context. Any church that has a hunger for a ministry like this, you can have a conversation with them. You can say, let's talk. But I think it needs to start somewhere. You've got to have a place. So we have a location on Saturday. Just 3 weeks ago, we had 3 people give their lives to Christ at our new location. Incredible. So people are coming in. We're offering them a shower for an hour and a half. We have the clothes that we provide to them. We want them to have new clothes every week. We want them to have a warm shower. We want them to have hygiene items. And the dignity that is restored when they walk out of that shower is amazing. It really is. Because here's the point. There's a self-image challenge. And when you step out of that after you've had a shower, now you're able to receive. There's a new sense of, although I know that my inside isn't quite clean, my outside is. So I can even enter into this and have a meal with other total strangers. I can hear the word being spoken. And I'm able now to receive even the message that God has for me. And many times, our own self-esteem, our own lack of dignity, our own, self-deprecating nature, our shame prevents us from ever hearing the good news. And so that's one way that you can do it, is that you take it to them. You don't say, come to me. You don't say, you've got to hop on a train or hop on a bus and you've got to work your way 12 miles to where I'm located. That's what I love about the shower. It goes to them all over the place. And we're covering Tahunga. We're way out here in Tahunga. We also have 2 locations in Chatsworth, but 2 different parts of Chatsworth. We're clear down in North Hollywood, not far from where the train station is in North Hollywood. And then we also have a location in Pacoima. And so we have
With the same truck?
same truck doing all of it. Our thing is we want our truck to be used. We have 2 part-time drivers, and then we use at least 1, if not 2 volunteers with each driver that we pair with them. It really, to be honest with you, if it starts small and you were to have a shower truck with maybe one stall, which we'll look at the numbers, but I don't think it's that much more expensive to have two.
Yeah,
If you're already on the trailer,
Let me
you
show
want,
you.
So anyhow, so you have the two. It's a good idea to have multiple people operating it. So that way you have someone who is there with their clothes, who's signing them in, and you have them come in and you sign them in. You could say at 9:30 we do signups. So they sign in, order of first come, first serve. And then after you do that, as they're moving through into the shower, they can get clothes. They can pick out clothes, pick out their sizes. What we do, because we're connected to a thrift store, is we go shopping every morning. We get as many clothes as we can in as many different sizes that our guys know our people usually need, the popular sizes. And so we get clothes, we get shirts, we get pants, we get socks, clean socks. And what this does is that we only go to the thrift store if we have to, because what we love to do is we love to involve local churches. So why can't a local church do nothing but fill a bin every single month with socks, with clean socks?
Yeah, and we already do that kind of thing.
You already have the socks. Or why couldn't you say, April is the month of blue jeans, it's the denim month, and you have as many people come and bring, and again, we usually go to the thrift store, so the things are used, but they're clean, gently used. There's nothing wrong with that. So people need to go into their closets, call it the spring cleaning time. You go into your closets and all those sizes that used to fit you that don't hold on to them until you lose your weight. You throw them in there and you can buy a new pair and reward yourself later, because someone else could use those today. And so you cast a vision about denim, you cast a vision about socks. You have hygiene items that come in and you start creating hygiene kits. All these things can be done either all coming from the same congregation, which it's a lot. If it's a large church, you can involve small groups, you can involve Sunday school classes, and each group can actually adopt one of these types of fundraising or drive types of things. But you also can involve multiple churches, and this is what I love. The SOS ministry, because not everyone is doing it. If everyone was doing it, we would not exist. If every local church was doing this, this is the vision, this is the mission, biblically, that the church should always be doing. We, in many ways, I wish we could work ourselves out of a job, out of even being necessary, because the orphans shouldn't be without a place to live. The widows shouldn't be without a place to live. The homeless shouldn't be hungry. These things should not have to happen. And it's not that we're being negative or we're being scolding of the local church. I was a pastor for 15 years. I have a deep heart for the local church, but it's overwhelming when it doesn't currently exist to feel like it's up to you to do it all. It's not. It's just up to you to obey what God's telling you to do, and you're not alone, because there's someone else across town. It's that. It could be the Lutheran, the Methodist, it could be the Baptist. There's another pastor sitting there every single day feeling the anxiety of, I wish we could do this. I don't have the people to do it. God's calling us to, but I don't even know where to begin. I'm burning myself out. I'm understaffed. Our funds are low. I don't know what to do. I'm doing my best to keep the saints happy on Sunday because they're arguing about pews or about music or about the sermon's too long and the air's too cold and I don't like the paint in the women's restroom. So you start getting into these different debates about silly things. The youth pastor, I don't like what he's wearing. You get into these types of things, and it wears you out. I mean, it really can if you're not also externally focused. And so an ingrown nature where you're only consumed with what's happening inside the walls, ingrown things, an ingrown nail naturally festers, and it's sick, it's not healthy. So when you keep your eyes outside of what's happening, it puts everything in perspective. And there are pastors that are longing for that. There are churches that are longing for that, but they don't know where to begin. Sometimes all it takes is getting 3 or 4 people that you know in the area, and you maybe don't know them well, but it's getting 3 or 4 people representing 3 or 4 local churches in your area. And you guys all go and do lunch, and you have a cup of coffee, and you just dream together. And it's not your dream, it's biblical, it's God's dream. And you say, what can we do together? Because it's a lot more than we could ever do alone. If everyone chips in, and this church is responsible for the socks, and this one's responsible for the food, this one's responsible for the shower truck, then you come together and you have a resource day once a month maybe. You bring in case management, you bring in the city, Sometimes we have the DMV come, sometimes we have, you know, the first aid, you know, Red Cross truck come. Sometimes we have, you know, a nurse comes. And you can actually do those types of, whether it's monthly or quarterly or whatever you do, but it's a resource day where our clients, our guests can gain those resources. And it can happen, but it's overwhelming to do on your own. But it can happen in even a small way, and it begins to gain traction. And one thing I just came from a meeting this morning, there are churches, pastors all over San Fernando Valley that have a hunger for this. And they've all felt like they were alone. They all felt like God called them to something very unique and no one else knows about it. And it's not true. When you start getting together and you start thinking about it, then you know it's the Holy Spirit. Then you know it's God saying, this is what I had planned all along. I've been waiting for you guys to join me. I'm trying to do it without you. And many times God does it even without Christian organizations because he cares about the homeless. He cares about the widows. He cares about the hungry. He cares about the broken. And if we can't get outside of our own building to see it, but think of the capacity, think of the potential when you can. So it comes from a vision of a person or a group of people. It could come from multiple churches in different locations, in different cities, in towns. But it's a grassroots movement, it really is. It does not need to start large scale. It could be, depending upon when you schedule it, you don't have to do it at the lunch hour to where they're expecting some big thing. And I actually challenged our SOS program. I said, listen, if we ever get to the point where we are limited in where we can go because we've made things too complicated, we need to simplify it. I don't care if it's peanut butter and jelly in the bag. That's irrelevant to me. We don't want to complicate things to where we can't handle what God is wanting to do. And there are multiple places that we want to go. So what we've done with our SOSs is they pretty much thought that we were going to be there forever. We had one in Van Nuys that was going 13 years. And we actually had to close it down. And here's a couple of reasons why. Just some of those warning signs. The church wasn't invested. The church had a new pastor. She was a little overwhelmed because what had happened there is it had become a magnet, but a magnet 7 days a week without any planning involved. So it almost just became a hangout. There were, there was drug paraphernalia, there was fights breaking out, they had to bring in the police during the week. Very, very unhealthy because the church wasn't buying into it. They were just opening their doors and then hiding in their office. And the problem with that is, the challenge with that particular, situation is that you can't, there's nothing you can do to really stop the hemorrhaging because it's overwhelming to you. The first time that I met someone there, someone pulled someone up, was one of our volunteers, and they were so excited. Hey, meet such and such. Maybe it was John, I don't remember his name. Meet such and such. He's been coming here every single Thursday for 12 years. And he's so excited about it. He's got perfect attendance every single Thursday for 12 years, and my heart breaks. I'm thinking, we're not doing our job if this person is still stuck in the same condition for 12 years. We've missed the point. It's not about how many mouths can you feed so that your stats look impressive, so you can tell the testimonies on the stage or from the pulpit. We fed 80 people. It's not about how many, showers that you give. It's about outcomes. It's about long-term spiritual solutions. These things are just conduits in order to communicate the gospel. So if you have that as your umbrella.
I compare to what we're doing, even with the meet and greets and things, it's triage.
That's it.
It's triage. It's not addressing the root problem.
Yeah.
The root problem is getting the counseling, getting the help, getting them into housing, getting the health issues resolved, getting the financial issues resolved.
It's true.
If there's the emergency, that's needed.
Absolutely.
So my safe parking spots are filled, and I walk out at 9 o'clock at night, and there's a van parking there, and I go up, and I found out that it's a mother and 3 children who had just run away from an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
And she said, "Can I stay here?" And I said, yes. And made the call and said, there's going to be somebody else here tonight. And we had a complaint from the neighbor. And I asked him if he had a spare bedroom for a mom and 3 kids.
Good for you, I love it.
And we would pay for him.
Yeah.
And he got all huffy and walked away and said, "You violated your rules." I said, "Really? I think Jesus did that too." I don't have a whip with me, but
You're right.
Wow.
That was
That's
the end
true,
of
you're
that?
exactly right.
that was the end of that.
You're exactly right. So it really is, in a sense, people are coming and they're bleeding out, they're hemorrhaging. And sometimes they just need a tourniquet.
Yeah.
And listen, you can't start talking to them about God when
Right.
they're bleeding out, when they're hungry and they're not even sure they're gonna make it till tomorrow, when their, kids are sick. So you have to stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
You have to apply first aid. You're figuring out what is the treatment that is necessary. But then you can't just put a Band-Aid on it and send them on their way.
No.
'Cause now that thing, once it gets exposed, it becomes infected and it gets even worse.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be even worse for them to have a false sense of healing and safety and security because you put food in their belly, when in actuality, that's almost fueling their dysfunction, their addiction, their brokenness. So you have to have a plan, and I think that now is the time to be thinking about this. So one of the things that I would just, challenge you with is, and you're right on track already, is that make sure that this isn't just a way to feel warm and fuzzy because you're doing something that no one else is doing, and it's gonna involve a lot of meals, a lot of showers, because that's not enough. Ultimately, at the end of the day, and we've been doing, I would say the rescue mission culture, that industry, so to speak, has been measuring the wrong things forever. They've been measuring how many nights of shelter, how many mouths have you fed, how many meals have you provided, and how many volunteers have helped do all of those things. That's not the point. So we're faith-based, and so we've actually flipped the metric. Those things, sometimes we have to report, but that's fine, because some people care about those things. For us, it's ministry outcomes. So what we look for, and I have, we have our staff challenged by this, and we also have even our SOS staff challenged by this, and this is where we want to head. Ministry outcomes are, how many people are in permanent housing today? A guest or a client in our ministry. How many people have gainful employment that we have helped facilitate by putting their first resume of their life together, by helping them learn skills, by connecting them with libraries that offer free computer skills and free classes so that they can have something on their resume, by encouraging them to volunteer at churches and other organizations because you can put volunteer opportunities on your resume, building a resume, teaching them how to have a conversation with someone in an interview. Those types of very basic things. So how many people are in permanent housing? How many people have gainful employment? The third thing we look at is critical life skills. The critical life skills is how are you interacting with your significant others? How are you interacting if you're married with your spouse? How are you treating your kids? What does discipline look like between you and your kids? Where is the healthy communication? How are your coping skills? How is your anger management? All of these different things. Other critical life skills could be financial planning, believe it or not, and it might seem silly, but we had our guests. We brought in a financial planner to speak to our guests about financial planning. We think, well, they don't have anything yet. Well, they have something. Many of them have, even if it's a small check, it goes in the first week of the month. But you've got to be able to manage. It's a stewardship issue. You teach the 4-year-old how to tithe their dollar, and they put their dime in the alabaster in the offering plate. So you teach these things early on so that when things do change in their circumstances, they have the ability to save. They have the ability to, if they get a job, they're not wasting their paycheck, even if it's small, but wasting their paycheck on frivolous things. So you teach them to budget. Very simple things. And it helps restore their confidence as well. Because they're thinking, wow, that means that you have hope in me, that my circumstances are going to change. Yes, I do. I'm not just going to say, see you next week. Why don't you take a doggy back to go? And then you're praying, dear Lord, I hope they make it next week alive. That's not enough. Critical life skills, permanent housing, gainful employment. The next thing that we also look at is we look at spiritual life development. And spiritual life development for us is that we offer devotions. We have opportunities for them to just sit in the presence of God. We have people, our staff preaches to our current guests. But then also at each one of our locations, there's a message that is being shared by someone. We have a volunteer that speaks at some of these. We like the local church to actually provide the speakers if possible. Otherwise, we have someone, a volunteer, that will come and will also speak. So it's important that is happening as well, because we all know that there are certain issues that we're addressing here that are temporal. The eternal is what matters the most. I mean, all these things we're talking about are Band-Aids, but the deep open heart surgery is what happens in a person's life, and that's the spiritual aspect. That's the spiritual aspect. So it's important that we're also addressing that as well. So that's in a nutshell, kind of some of the outcomes that we're looking for. So now what we're doing, and you guys are exciting, it's kind of exciting because we're thinking through what this is going to look like for us, but it also might give you some ideas, and you may have some for us eventually. We're trying to figure out how do we implement those same, and we're seeing, by the way, we're seeing terrific outcomes in our shelter just by changing our focus on what we're motivated by. Because here's the thing, what you're passionate about is what gets done. What matters to you the most is what gets done. So if you need to change what matters to you, sometimes you do. Because if you're spending all of your time doing certain things, that's a statement to your church, it's a statement to your neighborhood and to your congregation. And what matters to me is $80,000 for stained glass. Not how many meals could that feed in a year. What matters to me is a new organ. What matters to me is new carpet. Those things are important because you have to be a good steward of the temple. I get it. But you make a statement with how you spend your money. You make a statement with how you spend your time. Every church does. So if it starts out as just a little sliver of the pie, you know what? I'm going to give this an hour a week. And then eventually maybe it becomes a focal ministry where you're doing things maybe multiple days of the week. Great. Even if it's 5 minutes, even if it's 10 minutes of prayer and you do that for a month. But I would say because this matters to God, and it seems to matter to each of you because you're here, start making sure that it gets a piece of the pie. Because everything else will take that time. Get it in, and then once it does, it'll begin to grow like leaven. It will begin to raise, and others will be attracted to it, and it will begin to spread. But think about this with the end in mind. What is our goal in starting this? You have to have a goal. What is our goal in spending the money, or if we have it, investing the money in this, because we're accountable for where we spend our money. And at the end of the day, it may be as simple as another opportunity to bring people in. So this may become your magnet. That's great. You need a magnet.
Hello,
Hey, good to see you.
Jane.
I know Jane. Right. I brought some friends over.
She's the liaison, she's the one that got the mission up here for the showers. She twisted her arm.
Shower. So they're going to visit us this
Told me not to.
a little bit. There you go, arm showers. You doing well? Yeah.
Are there any questions that
They would love to ask you some questions in a minute. You can pull yourself right up. She's a part of the church. You're going to look at all this and you're going to assume that it costs a lot of money. 99% of what we do is donated. 99%. We don't spend money on any of this stuff. If anything, we put fuel in the truck, but the truck's already paid for, and you already have a truck. Oh, you don't?
We're about to purchase this one.
But this is the one you're going to get. How much?
16,000.
Yeah.
That's really good. Do you have a pickup to pull it?
We think that's going to be donated.
That's great. And I have some materials that I could also, and you have my card. Email me. I have some materials that I use to train my shower truck drivers. Safety training.
Oh yeah,
Okay?
we need that kind
All
of
of
stuff.
that stuff, please let me know and I will get all of that stuff sent to you. Training materials. I was saying that Pastor Mike, how are you, Brett? Good to see you again. Yeah.
Hi,
I have
Pastor.
some friends here from Goleta and where else? Santa Barbara?
Yeah.
And
The Goleta, Santa Barbara area.
Santa Barbara from
I
the
didn't know
coast.
that we are that famous.
You're famous. They wanted to come, and I would, and if it's okay with Pastor, he would have some great things to share as well. What they are is they have contacted Wade. He's the director and the assistant director about our SOS, and tremendous things are happening here. We've been hearing great stories, and so they wanted to come and see. So we were here about an hour ago, and they walked around and saw Eli, but they wanted also to come and kind of see the. I didn't know what time you guys were going to be here. If it wasn't until noon, because I'm here until about noon. But I would love for you guys to tag up with them, because each of them, their churches want to start something similar to this, and you can kind of give them, some of your perspective as well.
This is the right person to talk about it. This is Jane Fanganiello. She coordinates everything here.
I'm just a pushy-old broad.
Oh, okay. That works.
There you go.
I love it.
Works for us.
Email me, please.
Oh, you're
with
the
any
one
types of
that-
things that you're looking for.
Yosemite, whatever his name is.
Yo.
He said there's a wonderful lady here. She's a little Mighty Mouse, and she doesn't put up with anything. That's
No,
right.
I don't, and I'll
that
tell
you?
you, one of the reasons why is when we started this
the showers. I talked to Yo and Jesse, and I said, we need to make a strong presence. Because, you know, there's a few of them that can get out of line, not many. We have a good crowd. But I said, we need to keep a strong presence and be in control of it. And we've had one guy come in drunk, and I said, no, I won't serve you in here. If you go outside, I'll bring you food outside. And it was somebody who knew me, and he didn't resist at all. One other time, we had someone who was drunk, and that morning I had had a shot in my leg and didn't realize that it made me high. So he started saying, I'm a veteran, you're gonna take care of me. And so I went over and I confronted him, toe to toe, nose to nose. And about that time, Yo and Jesse and some other fellas came over and extracted me from it, but he's never been back. But, you know, we have people that come in grouchy. Sure. We have people who come in a little bit tipsy, and as long as they
Behave.
we have a gentle crowd here.
Yeah, that's good.
They told me, the rescue mission told me that they had a service over at in the valley someplace, and that they were doing drugs on campus.
Van Nuys.
Van Nuys. They were doing drugs on campus and come in with drugs, and they quit.
Sure.
They quit there. So that's why I think that having a strong presence is important, and being the pushy old broad, they know that I will confront them. I mean, sometimes they have shopping carts. I won't let them bring the shopping carts down.
Right.
I come on Wednesdays. I was coming. I'm planning on leaving, so you came at a perfect time. So I'm going to leave in 2 months. On Wednesdays and Friday, I have nothing to do with the food. But I talk to everyone. I go up and greet them and talk to them. I started out by saying, can I pray for you? And I had a whole list of books of people I was praying for and what I was praying for. But they need a job. They're having family problems. You know, they're all the same kinds of problems. But I got to know them. And I could say, how's your knee? How's your father? I can't remember names. I don't do well remembering names, but I know the faces and I know the problems that they're having. And I'm a toucher. And I think that's important, to have the person who does it be a toucher. Just laying my hand on them. And if you see the guys come in today, most of them will hug me. Just tap it. And, you know, they were hugging me and they were dirty. So I thought it'd be nicer if they were clean. But no, that was being facetious. The thought was, we give them food, we give them clothing. We have the clothes closet here. And we do what we can for these people, but we can't make them clean. And it was such a need that I saw when I came in and I started. Our community has a homeless committee. I don't know if you're aware of that. It meets on the third Thursday of the month at the councilman's office.
They're all clear in, was it Ventura County? What is it?
Oh,
Santa Barbara?
Santa Barbara
They're all
County.
Santa
No,
Barbara,
but
so they're-
just to be aware that they have all of these community, all of these community people meeting. And when I first went there, I thought, oh, they're gonna wanna just shove the homeless down the street. But that's not where they're coming from. They're trying to help them to get off the street. They're doing a count, and I think they were working on the census. And to take care of the chronic ones.
Yeah.
And so if I know of a chronic one, I call the person who does the census and get them on. But if they're over 60 and they've been on the street and they're ill,
Yeah.
then they're working very hard to get them
Right.
into some kind of a home. Now, I've talked to talk. Do you have questions?
Thank you. No,
Pastor Mike, were you
Yeah.
able to share kind of
Let me share
your
one
vision for it?
one experience that was an eye-opener for me. I come here for free food. I eat with them. So I was on a table one time, and when the person learned that I will be eating with them, and he said, "You're eating with us?" Yes, of course. Oh, so in this community, police wanted us to disappear, and now you're eating with us. So I think that's what I think. That's the ministry of presence, incarnating the love of Christ simply by sharing the food. So,
I would
eating a meal.
encourage each of you to sit at a different table for lunch.
oh, yeah, if we stay for lunch, we have a
Yeah,
deadline.
but each of you sit at a different table and talk to them and ask them how this has affected them and what else they'd like to see, and just generally talk about their welfare. They know Bree pretty well, and what happened, how it got started, and I've told this story before. I'm sorry, I'm running at the mouth, but tell me to shut up. I was in the Sunday school class. I had just come to this church because of a granddaughter, and I was sitting in Sunday school class, and the lay leader was talking about how wonderful the Bailey Center was. And what's a Bailey Center? And he says, we feed them and we clothe them, but we don't do anything else. And he says, we really need someone to talk to them and take it to the next step. And it was like God hit me in the forehead and said, you can do that. I was a school administrator, and a lot of the time I worked with discipline, and I'd be out on the streets with kids, and I'd talk to kids about this and that. Did you brush your teeth after you're taking care of your babies? And, and I said, God prepared me for that. And so I started out with can I pray for you? And it just went from there.
That's great.
Thank you for your stories, both of you.
So,
So you can see how it works now.
this is really great. And I think Susanna told us she's our SOS lead. She'll come out here and she'll bring a team, and they'll provide a meal around 12 o'clock. If maybe a couple of you are going to stay, that'd be good to kind of see it. But she said that a couple weeks ago, she counted the amount of meals that we had here, and it was something like 78 meals. Now, it wasn't 78 people, 78 meals. She brought, and she was panicked. It's really a miraculous story. It's a loaves and fishes story. She had made these rice balls, and she had made 34 rice balls. You guys remember this was a couple weeks ago. She had made 34 rice balls, and she had cut them in half. Wouldn't fill you up. It's a side item. She had some salad, she had some bread. She had about enough for 35, 36 people, because most weeks that's about right. A couple weeks ago, she walks in, and before they had even put the food down, there were already 35 people here. People from the shower came in, there was another 12 people. She knew that she had 7 volunteers and people with the church. She counted 52 people. She starts praying, God, we don't have enough food. The last thing Susanna wants to do is for anyone to be hungry. She never wants them to leave a meal hungry. So then she starts, as she's dishing it out, she starts praying. And she ended up counting that she fed something like 75 people, and 12 came back for seconds, and there were still 5 full plates left over. It was a total miracle. It was a miracle. So here's my point
Well, the
behind
real
that.
miracle would have been if there were 12 plates left.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So what's amazing
a new
about
math.
that is, but the story to that is interesting. The story is God will provide.
Oh, yeah.
If you're obedient and you do something and you feel like it's way beyond your means, it's way beyond your volunteer capacity, it's way beyond the amount of hours in a week to get it done, to add one more thing to your ministry plate, to add one more thing in the program that you have to advertise on a Sunday morning, God will provide.
Absolutely.
He will provide if you're obedient. And if he's calling you to it, and be honest with you, I'd like to say that God calls every church to a ministry like this. He doesn't. Because there are too many other ministries that are important as well that other churches need to adopt. But if this is something he's placed on your heart, the harvest is plentiful, and clearly the workers are few. The amount of churches that are doing this are way too few.
Yep.
But it
We
only
have
takes
two
one to create a
clienteles.
movement. It
Do
only
you
takes
mind
one.
if I ask you how old you are?
79.
Okay. There's a lot of churches say, our people are too old to do anything anymore. And you're gonna be my example.
Don't tell
I'll
her.
be 79 in June.
And let me tell you something, Pacoima's busting at the seams. We did 34 showers at Pacoima last week. And the person who heads it up, Sister Hodge, her husband, God rest his soul, her husband is pastor at that church for 50 years. Sister Hodge is 84 years old, and she's running that SOS.
That's wonderful.
So you're actually,
Young.
you're the chairman
I'm
of the
young.
youth ministry.
Yeah. We have two clienteles here. One is the homeless, the just regular homeless. And the other one is the fellows that work off the streets.
Day
Day
laborers,
laborers.
yeah.
And if, on Thursdays, if they don't get a job, they come up here for lunch. They have homes, so they don't want to shower, but they want the food.
They're coming from East LA, they're coming from all over to work.
Yeah.
And if they don't get work,
And Susanna or Eli will translate, so we have it in English and, but now I need to leave you and go talk to my people.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you so much.
May God continue to bless you and
Yeah.
bless your
Well,
ministry.
thank you. I'm moving to Hot Springs, Arkansas, so I'm taking the newspapers and I'm checking out to see where I'm
where are
gonna
you
go
gonna
when I
start it?
go
You
back
gotta
there.
start one there, you're a missionary.
Missionary.
We need Arkansas missionaries, don't we?
Yeah, and if, later on, if you have questions, I'll get to you, but I need to say hello to
No,
everybody.
thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Bye.
So Pastor Mike, do you have any words of wisdom? If you could back up, when this was all kind of new to you, do you have any words of advice coming from the local church on what, anything that you feel like they could take back home with them, they could pray about if they really want to start something like this?
You need to be patient and forgiving, because some of these people sleep in our property and we have to clean up after them. But I think we have based on the stories, we have the most well-behaved clientele here, or
Yeah,
guests.
this is very well behaved.
So we are not really. I think that's.
Some of that is because of your presence. To be
Yeah.
honest with you, it's because he's here.
Yeah.
It's because Jane's here. It's because they have volunteers here. Like I said, we've had other locations. There wasn't a presence from the local church, and they were dangerous. They were chaotic, and we couldn't stay because there wasn't a partnership. So having a church, even if it's 4 or 5 people, having people, and if they feel like they don't have any cooking skills or they don't have any whatever, they could just be a presence. They could just pray for people, talk with people, almost act as security, so to speak. Just be there, and it really helps. So you've actually helped make this
I
an
hope
orderly.
so,
You
yeah.
have. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, hospitality is one of the key Christian virtues, scriptural virtues, to hospitality to the strangers. You reflect that.
Yeah, treating them with respect, as a child of God. I think that's, and when you do that, when you say that, and when you back it up with your behavior, then it really means something to them, so that perhaps they would like to, to improve and so live up to it.
So it begins with honoring them, respecting
Yes,
them.
yes, yes. And I find that in the process they respect you.
So an interesting thing, even with the shower truck, okay? You could have a church that they may not do a meal, but the showers might be their magnet, because we talked about the magnet. So you may decide that you want to do showers in the afternoon, not revolving around mealtime, but you want to do showers from 2 until 3:30, and then, you may have a message, or you may have something, talk with them, some type of, or you could have a food pantry, and that could be what you couple with the shower. If you don't have a shower, it could be the meal, because there are many churches, unfortunately many of them are dying, but there are many churches that have kitchens that they almost have to dust. They're dusting the kitchen because they don't listen, and the reason why is because other than Sunday after church and maybe a Wednesday night, they're not being used. And it's true with again, I was a pastor for 15 years. So my sanctuary, I didn't have the heat and the AC on during the week. It wasn't being used. And so it's a stewardship issue. You have your property and it's busting at the seams. There's a lot of ministry to the saints on the weekends. But you have an opportunity, and it's not pressure, it's not an obligation. You have an opportunity the other 6 days of the week, 5 or 6 days of the week, to be a good steward of the temple that the Lord's given you, as Pastor Mike has been. He's opening it up. Is it messy? Sure. Do you have to clean up? Yeah. But would you rather have a pristine Sistine Chapel that is a museum, or would you rather have a movement? I'd rather have a movement.
Well, I tell you, this was not. I mean, some members, the stakeholders, really were, kind of reluctant about this, because in the past, YMCA had the shower program, but the people, abuse it, vandalize it, and so they had a negative experience. But one of our volunteers, Jesse, at one time asked me, will you ask YMCA if they are willing to restart the program? So I contacted the YMCA coordinator, and they said that because of their preschool, that they would not be able to start it again. And then he asked me the question, how about your church?
Isn't that great?
Who, me?
We have a preschool. Actually, someone rented our facility, and so the dilemma here is now, okay, what will they allow it, or can we just say it's part of our program?
Good. Very good.
They could not get their license, but I said, we try to hide it in a so that the parents will not complain. So we try on steering the shower here, but actually they had a problem. It won't fit that.
It's too wide to back in.
And actually our fence was kind of damaged, and they had to collect under insurance to repair it. But I think it has come to the point now that either we do it that side, or we do it on this side, and it has been accepted now among our people that this is a ministry that we need to do. Now, we are considered a dying church.
Most churches are.
We have, we'll be lucky if we have 50. I may have to go, I'm thinking of going part-time next year. Or we might be a yoke parish with another church about 5 miles away, another Methodist church. And I think we most likely will go into that.
Yeah.
But the good thing, if we are going to be a yoke parish, one pastor serving 2 congregations, is that we can keep this ministry here, the Bailey Center, and the shower lunch program.
This is a terrific ministry.
So
Good, good
Can
for
I
you.
ask a question? Have any of the folks that have been served by your shower ministry and the lunch ministry joined your church or come to
some
your
of them are
church?
coming. Actually, one of them who come is actually volunteering to teach because Jane is leaving. So we have several. We invite them. All we can do is invite them, give a standing invitation. Some of them do.
In many ways, this is the church for them.
that's
You
right,
know,
that's what
their
I-
service isn't Sunday morning; it's Thursday morning. It's Thursday. I mean, this is their worship service for the week, and so you know, it's actually a second service for you.
Should be able to count.
It really is.
Yeah.
Oh, so you do a little service at the end?
I volunteer from the mission.
Sometimes Pastor Mike
At one time,
does.
I
always love it
I
when you
speak,
do.
I speak.
I like it when you do
But
because you have a
I'll do
relationship.
once a month.
Once a month? All right. We gotta get that up to twice. Yeah, but no, that's good.
Yeah, my style is I tell stories. Aesop's fable, something like that. And I'm reaffirmed that because when I talk to people, say, "Have you been here before?" Yeah. I said, actually, I heard you talk about Aesop's fable, and I like that. So they remember, they remember the message. So.
Now I have. I'm gonna be sending information on the shower truck.
Okay.
Kind of the protocol, kind of the safety training, how we train our volunteer drivers. I'm going to send all that to him.
And I'll give it to all of you. You all want copies of that?
SOPs, right? Standard operating
That's right.
procedures.
Yeah.
We didn't have anything like that when I first got here. I've only been here 6 months. Full time with the rescue mission and kind of oversee the operations, and then I'm also in law school.
Oh, wow.
And
And what do you do in your spare time?
I'm a husband and a father of 2.
Oh,
So I have a family of 4. Yeah, so like last night I went to bed at 2 a.m. and this morning I wake up at 5:30. It's usually go to bed at 1, wake up at 5:30. God's somehow helping me with 4.5 hours of sleep because there's too many things that I want to do, and they're all so important to me. But anyhow, it's not about me. My point with that is that when I first got here 6 months ago, when we moved back out here, I was at Fuller Seminary and I was a pastor in Colorado. I planted a church in Boulder, and outside of Manhattan in New York City, Long Island, I was a senior pastor. So I was a church ministry for quite a while. But when I moved out here to go to school, I was looking up for a job for something that I've always wanted to do. And it's funny because I almost had to leave being a pastor to do this type of ministry. And I'm so excited that you guys are doing this. I am. I have a heart for the local church. My heart breaks, but I also get excited when I talk with pastors and when I talk with church leaders, because I have a firm confidence that the hope of the world is the local church. It's not San Fernando Valley Rescue Mission. Like I said before, I hope that the churches like yours work us out of even being necessary, where you're taking care of the homeless, the broken, the widows, the orphans, the hungry. And I have no doubt that it can happen. And all we want to do is help facilitate that and catalyze that movement. How do movements begin? It begins with one praying person, a group of praying people, one ministry. Make it a prototype. Don't spread yourself too thin trying to do it in 7 places because 7 people are excited. Get all 7 people that are excited to make that one place right, healthy. And you've got to start with the healthy prototype. Otherwise, all of the other duplications, replications, will also be sick. So start with healthy leaven, then it'll spread. And let me know if you guys have any questions. Contact me
You
directly.
can send it to Doug and myself.
I will.
Because
Send it to both.
we've got to go back to some governing boards.
Okay, I got it.
With the detailed procedures and things, and that was one of the big questions.
I'm also a Fuller grad.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, you are too, aren't you?
Actually, I studied at Fuller and then graduated from PLTS at Berkeley.
Oh, great. Very good.
Yeah.
I was
Great
cool.
school.
I just graduated 11 years ago, so I was at Fuller and then was working toward a doctoral ministry in entrepreneurial leadership through Bethel Seminary, Theological Seminary.
Yeah.
But then I was a senior pastor and I felt I didn't need any more education. I needed to, you know, but now I've gone through some transitions, and for me, it's everyone's called differently, and where Peter was called in the temple and Paul was called, you know, in the marketplace to find a tent making position, I'm kind of torn. So I have a foot in both, and because of that,
So you're going,
as an attorney, advocacy is always important. Being a voice to people that don't have a voice. I don't know where that's going to go, but it's where I'm headed next. So I'll be working in the mission field. I won't be working in the temple,
so you're
but I
not-
have a passion for the church.
you're not going from gospel to law.
Right, so, you know what? I've been studying the law my whole life, right? Every pastor studies the law. I get it, you know. But it's a little bit. But so nice to meet you guys. Good to see you. I unfortunately have another meeting in Northridge. But if you're able to, any of you are able to mingle, I recommend sticking around with Susanna's
Yeah, we should.
pulling up the food right now, and you'll kind of see how that machine runs. And I'll introduce you. I'll bring Susanna over as soon as